You're listening to Lighthouse Conversations, brought to you by Lighthouse Haven, a spiritual home for your awakening soul. Lighthouse Conversations is a show where awakening souls gather to be inspired, connected, and enlightened. Spiritual spark plug and host Chelly Canales, that's me, will guide you through the twists and turns of your journey to a safe haven where you are finally free to live your best light. Each episode contains a conversation with a guest who has gone through a spiritual awakening, detailing their unique and life-changing experiences in an intimate and candid way. Although everyone's experience is as unique as they are, we all share one common thread. We're all seeking something. So, come join us on this journey and be prepared to leave with resources that will supercharge you into inspired action. Here's today's episode. Hello, awakening souls. Welcome to Lighthouse Conversations. You have Chelly here, and I am so happy you decided to join me today. I hope you're well. I hope you're keeping yourself safe and finding joy in the day-to-day as this winter continues to go on. You know, we're turning the corner on March here, and I'm just starting to feel the promise of spring in so many ways, not just the weather, but a glimmer of hope. You know, looking towards the next few months as hopefully our society can get to a place where we are able to heal and protect ourselves and be able to go out into the world like we used to, but better. I'm looking forward to the but better part, and I think we can do it. Today's conversation is really one of my favorites. I mean, I felt so nourished by this conversation with Rebekah Borucki, also known as Bex. She is an author. She's a champion for wellness as a social justice issue. She is a mental health advocate, wants to make it accessible to as many people as possible. And she does this by writing, by using her voice as a truth teller, something that I admire and something that I think is very brave. And she brings up things that we need to address. And they may be difficult, but you know what? It doesn't have to be that difficult. So I'm so glad you're here today. Let's take a moment, get together, spend a little time with Rebekah, and yeah, enjoy the show. And welcome to the show, Rebekah Borucki. It's so nice to meet you.
So nice to see you. I'm really excited for today.
I'm going to call you Bex because you said I could call you either, and I just love it. It's like I want to live my Bex life too. Everything about it is amazing. You rocked my world this year. So I'm in spirituality. I write about it. I talk about it. That's what my podcast is about. And I've always had such this vision in my brain of who I wanted to work with and the people that I followed as mentors and inspirational leaders. And so much of that kind of shattered and cracked this year when reality sort of set in and I had to shift and adjust. And truth tellers such as yourself who bravely came out. I don't sorry. No. It's an awakening of its own. And I think it's so good for our growth. I want to know how you got to this place of absolute game changer. You're helping other authors share their voice. You're sharing your voice with so much truth and so much passion and so much bravery, which I commend you for. Tell me a little bit about your journey.
So I often tell this story by starting it out that my spiritual journey started with petty theft. So I shoplifted a copy of Ram Dass's Be Here Now from a used bookstore. So I have a long history of mental illness. It started when I was 8 years old. That was the first time I was hospitalized. And I was put on psychiatric medication. And then I was in and out of group psychiatric homes as an adolescent. Tried to take my own life several times, starting the first time at 10 years old. That was the first time I was put into a group home. And, you know, it was born out of a very dysfunctional home, a lot of neglect, poverty. You know, not everyone that has my beginning ends up, you know, where I was at that point, but that was, you know, the circumstances of my journey. I'm happy for it. I'm grateful for it at this point. But yeah, I was 15 years old, really struggling. I was in a physically abusive relationship with an older boy. And I saw this book and I don't know what it was. It spoke to me and I said, I'm going to check this out. And, you know, I grew up in a house that was observant when it came to traditional Christianity. But I also had the Bhagavad Gita on my shelf. I have the first edition of Louise Hay's, You Can Heal Your Life. That was my mother's. So I was exposed to a lot. And so I was allowed to be curious. And I already had a prayer practice, very close relationship to my creator, my God. And when I got this book, what was so interesting to me was that it offered a way for me to pray, but inward. And that was really the beginning of my meditation practice. And I have meditated every single day, which is talking to the God within and without. Since I was 15 years old, I'm 42 now. And it's really something that has saved my life again and again and again and again and again. So, in and out of like abusive relationships and divorce and being a teen mom and like all the stuff that I've been through, it didn't make my life perfect, but it definitely kept me on a track toward, taking the next step, waking up to another day. And when I was newly out of a divorce, I'd left a 10-year abusive relationship. I had 3 small children. I was on food stamps. I was really struggling. I went online to find community, and I started talking about my story. And that was like back in the day. Yeah. Like this was, like 2006, 2007. And, this career of mine started with me seeking community and seeking help for myself. So, and it is still that. It is still an exercise in community and fellowship and, just being there for each other.
Which is what we need. And it's amazing. Sometimes we end up creating the thing that we need, the thing that we're seeking out. Mm-hmm. And somehow it just grows and grows. And by you being vulnerable and being brave enough to step out with it, you light up all the other lights. They grow from your candle, if you will. So it's actually by healing yourself in a way, you're allowing for others to follow that journey for you, which is
that's incredible. True for everybody.
Yeah.
That's true for everybody. If you are on a path to healing yourself, you are intentionally or unintentionally, it doesn't matter. You are healing the world because you are creating a different energy around you. You are inspiring people in ways that you don't even know. Yeah. So I just try to do it in a very intentional way and then also offer that up to other people, that everyone has this shared purpose. And I say it's to love, to be loved, to learn, and to teach. And all I do is share the stuff that I've learned, 42 years so far. Every day I learn something new. I share it with the world. That is the way I love. And I accept love by allowing people to help me and be in community with me. So everyone can do this. And there are as many ways to do it as there are people on this planet. So, it's not hard to change the world. It's really about changing yourself.
I love everything about that. And being the vessel that you are and coming through you're able to reach people that may have not have heard those same things coming mm-hmm. through someone else that they don't relate to as much. You are, I'm just excited to talk to you because I know, I feel like I'm like a little fangirl.
I love it. It's fun.
So growing up, I feel like I'm a Latin woman, and I always felt mm-hmm. like there was these boundaries around what I could say, what authority I could challenge, where my voice was going to be heard or not be heard. And there was always this, keep it quiet. You can maybe mutter to yourself, or if you do actually speak to somebody about something that's going on outside of you, it might not be heard. You're not the vessel for it to come through, right? So as I've been mm-hmm. going through life and seeing people around me, such as yourself, it's given me the courage to speak up more and make my voice heard and make my voice known. That's a scary thing to do. So I want to talk to you mm-hmm. about how you're using your voice right now. You are a champion for wellness as social justice. You are mm-hmm. exposing certain practices in the world of publishing that are maybe, things that have been talked about in secret before. I want to hear what the journey has been like for you, finding and using your voice, and what kind of reaction you have received to that.
Well, I'll preface this by saying, I said that I came from poverty. So when I was going through a mental health crisis, it was social workers that saved my life. And one social worker in particular, his name is Caesar Cologne, and I wish I could find him. So if anyone knows a social worker from New Jersey named Caesar Cologne, he's probably like maybe 60 or 70 now. I'd love to see him. But he saved my life. And I was just so lucky in that regard because, while social workers and everybody that works in the system they're like angels to me. It's, they're so overworked and they're just not getting the resources to help the kids that need it most. So I look at, I just think about me and what I needed, and even me as an adult. Like, I, right now at this moment, still do not have health insurance because it's so messed up, and I'm dealing with the bureaucracy right now. And it's like, and I know that if I didn't have, the intellectual capabilities that I do, like, I would be buried by the system at this point, all the paperwork and like all the talking I have to do. So I'm just like, look, this meditation saved my life. And I'm looking at Black and brown kids in the neighborhoods that I grew up in, and they have no idea what this is. And who I see meditating, look, everybody needs it, right? But who I see meditating are people, and gatekeeping it are white folks of certain income bracket, certain status level. And I'm like, I don't understand why something that's free and easy to do with absolutely no equipment is being held captive by this elite group of people. And it's true of every single wellness modality. So when I walked into, like, I was published by Hay House. When I walked into the Hay House world, and I lived between New York and New Jersey, and in this New York wellness circle, and, I was very privileged to be able to have access to the best of the best and the most awesome people and parties and networking events and whatever. I walked into these spaces and I'm like, first of all, everybody's white. Everybody has money, and nobody talks like me. Nobody came from where I came from. And none of these, most important part, none of these practices that they're selling come from their culture. Mm-hmm. So these Black and brown practices that I know would save my people are being hoarded. It was just so ridiculous. And I was naive. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to give it away for free, or I'm just going to make it cheap. So I started doing like my 4-minute meditations and all that. And it made so many people big mad. Like, I won't name names, but big people in the meditation world were like, what's the lineage and where'd you get your training? And I'm like, bitch, I lived. I'm alive today. And that is the proof. Like, no disrespect to, because I honor ancient traditions and ritual and culture. I don't even call myself a yoga teacher anymore. I don't practice as a yoga teacher because I have more study to do. But like, how are you going to tell me that what I'm doing isn't real? Because I don't have a certification. Like, my life, the blood that's flowing through my veins has certified me to say this is something that heals. My goodness.
That's so important. So many of us get stuck on that. If I don't have the exact qualifications, or even if you do, I have the qualifications and I still struggle with it. But you're out there and you're doing it and you're ruffling some feathers. And this was a little while ago, a few years ago, when this was happening.
When I wrote You Have 4 Minutes to Change Your Life, that was 2017 that book came out. So I started talking about it between, like, I started doing my 4-minute meditations around end of 2013, or 2013 when I started. Yeah, and people were like so mad.
And was that a Hay House published book?
It was. Yeah, it was.
And so now your experience with them, I knew more about you because I learned about the Diverse Wisdom Program, which is something I applied for myself. I'm like, oh, wow, this publisher who I love and adore and have so many, heroes in, is looking for people like me. I'm glad they're amplifying voices that haven't had a chance yet. But the more I looked into it, I'm like, I'm not reading a lot about it. I'm not seeing lots of information about it. That was part of your journey, as well as you deciding to leave Hay House. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Well, I always begin this conversation, lately at least, with saying that I felt very loved and held at Hay House the entire time I was there by 99% of the people. There are a lot of really good people working there, and a lot of people that are very hopeful about change and trying to make change from the inside. There are those same people, though, unfortunately, because they have grown up in systems that have not reflected differently for them, so they have privilege, they think that making change is very complicated, or it has to take a really long time. Like, careful attention has to be made to the way systems are put in place to not cause further harm, and you should bring in experts and all of that. But they were telling me stuff was complicated that just wasn't. You know, like when I asked them to make a statement saying that they do not subscribe to conspiracy theories and that they are going to publicly denounce QAnon and whatever because because those theories disproportionately harm Black and brown people, they felt like they didn't have a responsibility, even though that their authors that they make money off of still, even if they weren't like in contract for a new book, because that was the excuse that they used, that they still have them on their website. They're still making money off their programs. They just felt like, you know, what's the point? And the problem is that deep in the core of their being, while they want to be good, they're still not connected with their humanity enough to see the real humanity in Black and brown people. And that was something that I just couldn't stand for. So I canceled my contract. They were about to publish and distribute my children's book. I canceled my contract. I stepped down as a mentor in the Diverse Wisdom Initiative. I had been a mentor from the beginning. We're about to enter our second round. And, you know, I walked away and I'll tell you, I cried on that call. I felt like I was leaving my family. And this is the message that I really want to get out to white folks, light folks, white passing folks, people that hold privilege. It doesn't have to be happening to you. Like it wasn't happening to me. I was fine. I had the contract. I had the money. I had the love and support. You have to give something up to really make change, to really be heard. Like it is necessary. Like it is pie. Privilege is pie, right? Like you have to give up some of yours for someone else to take that space. And for me, it was an easy decision. It hurt, but it was like a no-brainer. I'm so grateful for Juliet Diaz, who is another woman of color, and Megan Watterson, who is a white woman who immediately showed up in support and left as well. So grateful to them.
Love her.
But it should have been more. And I won't say, this is a long intro. Like I was just like, I got to say this before I start, but this is a big part. I have called out white women who continue to maintain and pursue contracts with Hay House. I think it is wrong. There is no nuance in that. I'm very clear. I will never take money or opportunity out of the hands of Black or brown people. So I don't want anybody going to any Black or brown person or otherwise marginalized person that is still with Hay House and try to take away what they have fought hard for. But the white people, I am calling to the carpet. Like, I think that I had one white woman who was a friend of mine, and she came back when I confronted her because she was purposely concealing the fact that she had just signed a deal with Hay House and she was announcing her book deal. And I'm like, why didn't you mention your publisher? That's weird. And she said, what was I supposed to do? Give up my contract? Yes. Yes.
Ooh, yes.
Why is that so ridiculous? Why is that so ridiculous?
You know, it's hard because I'm sure this author had this dream and had been building and saying, you know, I finally got here. Why would I give that up? But you're right. I mean, it's a bigger picture thing. Right. And you did. And you, so being so vocal about this, has the publishing house reached out to you to say, whoa, maybe, okay, amazing.
I haven't heard one word from them since I made the announcement.
And other authors, have they reached out and
I have had some messages of support. I've also, as well as a couple of my close friends, have experienced retaliation from authors there, from white authors there. I have had messages of support from Black and brown authors there. I've had some people in editorial and other the higher positions reach out to me from their personal emails and say that, you know, they are struggling, including people of color that are still there, and saying that, that, you know, they stand by me. I've had former people that work there come out publicly and say that they're standing by me. Like, it was no news to anyone that was within the organization. It was no news. Mine was one of the milder interactions. And the big interaction that started it all was when I asked Reed Tracy at a mastermind where I was the brownest person in the room, and people will see my picture, I guess, at this podcast and say like, well, I wouldn't call her Black if I saw her on the street because I'm biracial. My father's Black and my mother's white. I was the brownest person in the room out of like 75 people. That's a problem. And when I asked him what we were going to say about this, what we were going to do about it, I felt so uncomfortable. He said, well, Rebekah, you need to understand that we cater to an affluent audience.
Yeah, I've heard you say that
was his
before.
answer.
I feel like my stomach would have just dropped in that moment. Once that happened,
I caught on fire. and I will say, shout out to Kyle Gray. He is an angel. He speaks to the angels and does all that magical stuff. Shout out to Kyle Gray. He initiated that conversation that day, and he supported me after it. And he is an angel on earth for me, because he did give me the strength that day to be able to stand up in a room full of white people who were being very defensive, and they were coming for me. So mad props to Kyle Gray.
He's wonderful. So once you went through this experience, and then you went through the diverse wisdom, pulling out of that, and then pulling out of your contract, before you said, I'm going to talk about this in public, I'm going to just speak my truth. Were you so scared, or were you like, nope, this is just happening. This is just time. What was that like emotional, mental, physical process for you to, because like once it's out there, it's there. You can't unring the bell.
I love that you think that I sat down and thought about it.
I guess that's my process, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll
tell you something. Okay. So the things that I fear, I have a lot of fear. I fear letting people who I admire down. Like last night, I had to interview my friend Jen Raffiopi, who just wrote this beautiful book, Cosmic Health. And it was like this whole production. They like sent me podcasting equipment, and like, I just wanted to be so good for her because I love her so much. What I am not afraid about is speaking to justice. What I'm not afraid about is speaking truth to power, because my mother told me when I was 5 years old, and I wrote about this in my book, Rebekah, you have a direct connection to God that no man or minister can come in between. When you speak, he hears you. When he speaks to you, you receive it, because that is truth. And whatever you believe, I don't care if you believe in God or not, or you call, God something else. This is it. This is it. And you're here on purpose. You were made for a purpose. And if you don't believe that with your whole self, you are robbing yourself of the experience of like really changing the world around you. And when I say change the world, like change one person or just be there for somebody. So when I left, it was like, hell yeah, I'm going to talk about it. I didn't want to cause like a big commotion. So this is me being like, not thinking, Rebekah. I was like, I'm going to post this at night, because no one ever likes my posts at night. Like all my people are moms and everybody's in bed at 8:30. So I was like, I'm going to post this little thing at night and like in the middle of the week, and no one's going to see it. And it was not, it was not the reaction that I was anticipating. But I am so happy that it gained the attention that it did. Not for me. It didn't help me sell more books. It didn't make up for the money that I lost, but it started a conversation, that was taken up by a lot of white women, because that is who has the most power in this wellness world. It was taken up and carried forward. And I just love to see it. I love to see people talking about this and taking the veil off of this really nefarious situation. Like Simon & Schuster isn't telling you that you're going to change your life if you come buy a book from them. Like Hay House is a culture. You want to be part of Hay House. You want to buy every Hay House author's book. You want to go to their events and see all the authors and like bask in that or whatever. I did. So that's dangerous. That's dangerous. And I could no longer let my people go to them because they were going to be harmed. So it wasn't a hard decision. I really didn't think about it. I just started speaking. I probably blacked out for a few days. I'm not even joking. I don't even know what I was just like tapping with my thumbs on the screen. And it, whatever. It was truth. Listen, never regret the truth. Never, ever. And I'll tell you something else, because now I feel like I'm in church. It was a white woman, Tara Stiles. And I always have to qualify like white woman, black woman, whatever, because it always surprises me when white women show up like this. Which is terrible to say, but whatever, it's true. Tara Stiles was my yoga teacher. I did my first certification through her at Strala. I taught at Strala Yoga in New York. And wasn't my last yoga certification. I have a traditional one as well. And she had this little like slogan at the time. It was "Who made the rules?" And she was challenging different ideas about like who should have access to yoga and whatever. Some I agree with, some I definitely disagree with. But that question really like stuck with me. And I asked myself, who made the rules? And then the next one, because this is why we're afraid. We're afraid of breaking the rules or being unloved or being ostracized. Who made the rules? And then why? Why was that rule made? And 9 times out of 10, it's to oppress or to silence or to restrict. That's what the nature of rules are. It's rarely to protect. And if they are to protect whom? So if the rule doesn't apply to you, break it.
Yes. No, it's
this is why my kids don't listen to me.
It's
like, Mom, you said.
I'm not gonna follow that rule, Mom. You taught me best. It's so amazing to hear you say it, because I know I run into this. I know a lot of people I know run into this. It's like, I should, and when I do, it's like, okay, now that it's out there, I'm so scared. Like I'm speaking truth to power. The more people like you who are just like, I'm just going to do it, make it easier for other people to do it. And I think we're coming to this like pinnacle here where we're all getting to this point where the truth is just going to be the truth. This is my hope anyway, that it's shattering these boxes that we've been put in. I've always been the good girl. I talk about this like in my TEDx talk, like what's the world missing while you wait for permission? Somebody has to tell me that it's okay for me to speak and that what I'm saying is good or okay or not going to offend anybody. And I'm done with that. And so it's so amazing to hear you say that. And like you mentioned, your kids, you're teaching your kids these ways of being that allow them to be their full selves in the world, which takes me to Zara. Can we talk about your book series? I love
my
her.
sixth baby.
Oh my gosh. She's wonderful. And I love that you created a scenario for her. She is biracial. She has some anxiety that she works through. She comes from a divorced household. She has not only do we learn her story, you put in there meditation techniques for kids that are not like, here's the meditation for you. It's something that's very relatable and very accessible. So tell me how you birthed her. How did she come into the world?
So, well, first of all, Zara is me at 7 years old. And I told you that I had my first crisis, my first psychiatric crisis at 8 years old. So this is truly the book that I needed when I was 7 years old.
Yes.
And that's why I wrote it. So Zara is, and these are important points. She is biracial. We don't say that. She has anxiety. We call them big, messy emotions. Her parents are divorced. You have to glean that because we never even say it. Like she kind of like goes to daddy's house or whatever. Like they just live in different places. Like that's all it is. And I had a very messy, chaotic childhood. My parents were both victims of childhood sexual abuse that did not deal with their own trauma in the correct way. But they were people who loved very big, and love was always the center of our household and our existence. So I saw 2 people that should have never been married, but stopped being married when they were 5 and remained best friends until the day they died. So, and like every single one of our family events, there's like, it's almost like it's like, how are they family? Well, they're really a neighbor, but they're kind of a cousin, and they're like my step ex's nephews, whatever. Like people just stay in our family. And that's what I wanted to normalize is the different kinds of family and the different kinds of people and situations. So Zara is this little girl. She runs hot, like somebody I know. She doesn't have a lot of patience. She's very sweet. She's very sensitive. And she's very affected by the surroundings. So if they're calm, she's calm. If, it's crazy, then she's out of control. And in each book, because now it's a series and I'm working on the 4th book. In each book, Zara is faced with an issue. And then a mentor, and they're purposely in my books, Black women, because Black women were very central to my life in guiding me. My 2nd book is actually dedicated to my godmother and my 7th grade teacher, Glenda Autry. So in each book, the deliverer of wisdom is a Black woman. They give her a technique. And then what Zara does is she takes it and then she practices it on her own, which is very much my story, where I have struggled, I seek out learning or someone gives it to me, and then I take the practice and I make it my own. And it doesn't, and there's like never a happy ending. The stories are just like, all right, well, she worked it out. Like her brother's still a pain in the butt, but she just feels okay about it. So the first one is Zara's Big Messy Day. It offers not a meditation technique. We don't say meditation or mindfulness. I do at the end when I talk to the parents, but it's just a breathing. She breathes in, she breathes out. She uses her imagination. The second book, Zara's Big Messy Bedtime. She uses a poem to kind of assess the but and of the day, like this is happening and this is also happening. So this so-called good thing is also happening at the same time as the bad thing. So it's about change and transition and just paying attention to what is. The third book is about to come out, Zara's Big Messy Playdate, and we have a return of Penelope, the playground bully. She's not even a bully. She's misunderstood. And she's modeled after my oldest child, Winona. And Winona actually consulted and edited this book.
I love that.
Me. Yeah, so she was brilliant. She did a brilliant job of really bringing Penelope's like full character to life, so that she wasn't just perceived as this one-dimensional bully. She's really someone who suffers with the feeling inadequate and wanting things to be perfect, and worries when things aren't being the right way or being done the right way. And then the fourth one, which I'm working on with my illustrator right now to finish up quickly because we're going to offer it for free, is Zara's Big Messy Goodbye, and it's about grief and loss.
These are
really
books
special.
I grief and loss for a child's perspective. That's beautiful. These are definitely books I wish I would have had as a child. I think it would have helped me understand my experience better going through it, being a very sensitive child and empath. So I feel like these are so valuable. And the fact that you're providing them to certain populations for free, talk about that and what that initiative is.
So my children's imprint is Wheat Penny Press, and we have a nonprofit, the Wheat Penny Press Little Readers Big Change Initiative, and we deliver free books, author visits, which is a really big deal because author visits are very expensive for schools. So free books, author visits, virtual and in person, and also workshops online and in person for children pre-K through 8 in Title I schools. So these are schools that are designated having a high low income population. It's the most magical thing I do. I love doing my readings. I do them here in my studio. I get to see the classes, and it's just, and we send them books. So you can't, the audience won't be able to see this, but I have like stacks and stacks and stacks, thousands of books right now in my home studio. That's acting as a warehouse during COVID. And we're sending out hundreds every month. And it's just very, very exciting. It's so good.
Do you hear from the
best work I've ever done? They send me. Yeah, they send me pictures. They send me little videos like, "Hey, Miss Rebekah," and they're doing the meditation. And they're just, the most frequent feedback I get though is from parents who have like a struggle moment, and their kid comes up to them and reminds them of the meditation in the book, and they're like, "And now I have a therapist."
I love everything about that.
Yeah.
They really do. They absorb it and they're like, okay, I've seen the situation before. This is how we handle it. I think what you're doing is so incredible, and so many people benefit from that. It's funny. I lived in New York for a while too, and I taught meditation and yoga to little kids like all over the city and the boroughs. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, if this was readily available and in the common lexicon in school, we would have a very different society when they, grow up. So what kinds of, so you're in schools, you're doing readings. I mean, are you getting in libraries? Like, how are you, I know that this book needs to be in the hand of like every child. So what's kind of the expansion or the dream of that for these books?
Every day it's expanding. As I grow this publishing house, as I'm starting a new one, we talked about before we went live, Row House, which is a new project to say we're raising the volume on voices that matter. As I work on this, it's just the opportunities are coming from every direction. They're really beautiful. We just had the National Alliance for Mental Illness reach out about Zara and put her in their curriculum. And then K-12, which is a national online public school, just created a unit in their second grade curriculum for Zara. So she's like going out to 25,000 kids next year.
Incredible.
So it's just really, I want her to be everywhere. It's a wonderful way to make a living, but honestly, this is like, with like my doula practice, I'm also a birth doula. Like, this is my God work. Like, I just feel like I need to be doing this. If I could give everything away, like, I'm happy. So I did have to create this other business so I could actually make
so you
money.
could do that. Yeah.
Because my husband's like, wait a minute, I don't know.
We also have a family, right?
They're fine. Everybody's fine. They act like they're starving and don't have, I really need the Barbie dream house. I'm like, I assure you that there was no Barbie dream house in my situation.
Fair enough. But here, I've got lots of books for you. Lots of books. So let's talk about Row House. Tell me, what is this next evolution for you?
So Row House was born from my girlfriend texting me and said, hey, why don't you just start your own hay house? And you cannot say these things to me, because I will be like the next day I had a logo. I was all about it. So we did the work, though. We have been incredibly careful to do this right. We've consulted with the CFO and COO of Simon & Schuster, David Elau. He put together our numbers for us and consulted there. We've had meetings with Cindy Spiegel from Spiegel and Grau, a publishing house, and she's a big, kingmaker in the industry, and just really these amazing people that have come out to support us. And what it is an equitable, transparent, flat rate, advance and royalty structure that every author gets. I don't care if you have 5,000 followers or 5 million followers. And then, because what that does for the new author, the advance, which is $40,000, we're very open about it, it's $40,000. It allows them to actually hire the editor and get the launch projects together. Because what's happening is these authors that don't have big platforms are getting like $5,000, and it's like, what am I supposed to do with that?
What are you going to do with that?
3 payments. You're like, what are you going to do with that? And then on the back end, we have a 40% royalty structure, profit sharing, and that's about 4 times industry average. So for the bigger author that's selling 100,000 books, it's very attractive for them. And what it does also is that it makes us partners in the experience. So a publisher that's making 90% off you, they're like, your book can sell, it cannot sell, we're still going to turn a profit. But with us, we have to be invested. We have to be there.
I think that sounds amazing. What kinds of books are you looking for? Is it going to be spiritually based as well? Lifestyle, well-being, things like that?
It's going to be personal development. We're starting with personal development, self-help. We have a business book already for the first year of publishing. Definitely spirituality. It's going to absorb Wheat Penny Press. So we're going to have the children's imprint. Wheat Penny Press is really based around empowerment and the own voices, diversity, like having the author's identity match the identity of the protagonist of the story. And we are talking to one of our new lead authors about a spiritual children's imprint. We're doing lots of stuff. It's very, very exciting. And we're still in the first round of investing. What I can say here now, because we're going to announce it tomorrow, is that we're putting together a Row House block party founders group, and it's going to be for the newer investor, or we're making it more accessible at a very small price point for people to come in and be part of the beginning of Row House and make an impact. Because otherwise it'd just be gatekeeping in another way. It's like you can't come in unless you have $200,000. That's like right. Which is lots of good people with a lot of money, but I really wanted it to be, for the people. And we also have what's called a faith investors, which are 4 authors that are given equity stake in the company for their wisdom, in exchange for their wisdom, who will serve on a council to create the company culture, our policies, help us with hiring. And that is a very diverse and experienced council. It's really good.
This sounds incredible. And I'm asking for a friend. How does one, get involved and perhaps apply or send in a proposal?
Well, we are going to be, people who are in publishing know that once you submit a book, it's like 18 to 24 months before it's actually published. Right. So this first round, we handpicked the authors that we wanted to come with us. And that's going to be like our faith investors and a couple of other people that were close to helping us develop it. And we're going to start taking submissions in 2022. So like next year. Fantastic. And we're excited. And it will not be the gatekeeping that, most publishers, we will have open submissions. So we'll be able to submit without an agent. Yeah.
I feel like the doors are just opening up for so many voices to have a place to be themselves. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. Do you have great hopes for, the industry in general following along and understanding where they need to go?
Yeah, that's what this is about. Like, it isn't like, look, I don't want every author. First of all, I don't have the money to pay every author. So not at this point anyway. I do want to make this a major house. I do want this to do really well, but I don't want every author. I want a Black queer woman to walk into any house in New York City and be like, hey, Row House is paying this, and this is what I want, and them have to say yes. And on the DL, these deals happen every day. Like Stephen King doesn't have a 10% royalty rate. Like, he's a partner when he's selling a book. So these deals are being made, and they can be made. I just want it to be more equitable, to be more transparent. I want people to be paid, a fair price, and not to feel like Juliet and I, when we went to Hay House, we were just so grateful to have a deal. We would have taken anything.
Right.
That's just not the way it should be.
No, I agree. I feel like there should be transparency like that in every industry. The fact that they don't list salary when they're asking you to apply for a job, that's just so much emotional energy that can be wasted, so much time that can be wasted when you can just clearly say, this is what it is, guys.
But it isn't what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it isn't what it is. It's different for everybody, because depending on your skin color or your family name or whatever. So, and that's another part of it. I want this to disrupt the way everything is done so that people who are owed what they deserve get it. And I want people to see that, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from investors. We're like, but you don't have to do 40%. You could do 20% and still get everybody. And I'm like, yeah. And
right.
It's like, I can also just make a little bit less and make people very happy. Like, we're all going to eat. Everybody can eat. And be happy. It doesn't have to be about hoarding wealth and just a few people having it all.
I am with you on that. And it's time for that change. And so you're leading the charge. Bex, you do so much for the community, for people around you, for society. Before we go, I just want to hear how you are being taken care of. What kind of support are you receiving? And is there anything you can ask for, that can come your way to kind of support you in this mission?
Like I said, y'all can't see me, but I'm wearing a sweatshirt that says "Pay Black Women."
Yes.
It's made by my dear friend, Cindy Spiegel, who has a company, Dear Grown Ass Women. I am so well supported by the community around me, mostly Black and brown women and non-binary, POC. I have such a rich community, and I feel supported every single day. However, that will not stop me from asking for everyone to go to supportrowhouse.com. That's where you can find all kinds of share information, graphics that you can share on your social media. Just be part of the media visibility. We really need to get eyes on this. So supportrowhouse.com and also weekpennypress.com, and sponsor a classroom. You can do it for as little as $10 a month. You could sponsor a whole classroom. You could buy a package. I do not take a salary as a founder. We don't have salaried employees for the nonprofit. It is direct giving. When you give the money to buy a book goes to a kid.
That's incredible. I'm just so enriched by this conversation. Thank you so very much for your time. And I look forward to following all that you keep doing to change this world into a better place for everyone.
This was so fun. It felt like 10 minutes. Thank you.
It felt like 10 minutes. I could talk to you all day.
It was great. It was great meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Lighthouse Conversations. If this show resonates with you, it would mean so much to have you rate, review, and share. Don't forget to follow us at chellycanales.com and on social media.